It's time for the shop report with
Barbershop Jay.
All righty. What it do, sports fans? Once again, it's your man BSJ from the Shop Report. And guess what time it is? That's right. You guessed it. Time for another recommended reading. Today's selection for our recommended reading is none other than False Start, The Return of the Cleveland Browns in 1999. Now, here's a bit of a disclaimer. This book was written by Terry Pluto, who was a plain dealer columnist and Cleveland.com columnist, actually, for I don't know how many years, but for some years, a whole lot of years. He and I used to be a part of a local talk show here called More Sports and Les Levine, who, by the way, Mr. Levine unfortunately passed a few years ago, may he rest. But Mr. Pluto and I kind of go back a ways. Now, although I haven't seen him in a few years, when he wrote this book, and actually I don't even know what year he wrote this book. Well, maybe sometime in 1999. I can't find the date here. Yeah, somewhere around in there. Excuse me. Sorry about that, people. But anyway, when he wrote this book, he gave me a copy, autographed it and all. Just want y'all to check that out right there. Shout out to Mr. Pluto. Right. All right. Shout out to Mr. Pluto. But the interesting thing is the things that he says in this book and why it's a must read. If you're an old school Browns fan like I, you know, as Brother Rich would always like to point out, these ain't your grandpappy's Browns. Oh, yeah, get on out of here with that. There are things in this book that you otherwise might not have known, or been privy to, obviously, based on what the news and the media was portraying at the time. Now, we all know the story. I'm not going to go into the details of it all. Modell was vilified, and some people even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, desecrated his grave because, that was a big deal, him taking the Browns from Cleveland and, moving them to Baltimore, seeing how the Browns had been around since the 1940s or whatnot. They were very much so a storied franchise, despite all of the craziness and the losing and the misery and so on and so forth. But if you are a new Browns fan, you definitely need to read this book. Because again, in this book, you probably can't see me that good, but hopefully you can see the book here. Yeah, again, let me show you the title once again. In this book, Mr. Pluto gives a comprehensive breakdown and a detailed description of what transpired prior to, during, and after the Browns' exodus. Now, I'll say this as well. Even though at the time, it got a lot of backlash, this Browns move to Baltimore did, from Browns fans in particular. It was not, in my opinion, as egregious, okay, as the move that the Indianapolis Colts made, from Baltimore to Indianapolis. Go look that up in the middle of the night. Yeah, they brought Mayflower trucks, and didn't tell nobody. You know what I mean? When folks came to work the next day, they would have padlocks on the doors. My gosh. But anyway, let me get into the book, and I'm going to read you all a little something here. And this, what I read, hopefully will convey why this book is a must read for every Browns fan, for any football fan in general. If you're really into the sport and you really want to know the behind the scenes, or a behind the scenes look at what goes on when it comes to management and franchises and those in ownership and such, you really definitely want to take a look, or a gander, a little bit more than a gander. You definitely want to read this book. But anyway, I read. It was supposed to be the dawn of a brand new era of football in Cleveland. Instead, it was a rude wake-up call. When the new Cleveland Browns took the field in 1999, legions of loyal fans, once heartsick, abandoned, and disgusted at the loss of their team in 1995, were ready to forgive the past and embrace the future. A new owner, a new team, a new stadium. They just wanted their Browns back. I can attest to that. They didn't get what they bargained for. In the 5 years since, at the time, a new team called the Browns arrived to play on Cleveland's lakefront. this had become clear. Browns fans got a bum deal. The NFL traded one of the most storied teams in football history for a franchise mired in mediocrity. There were the fans who, after owner Art Modell skipped town with their beloved Browns, became the only fans ever to take on the NFL. And when he says ever to take on the NFL, if I recall correctly, at the time, once the move was announced and it was official or officially announced, however you want to say that, there were people who wrote letters to the president and to Congress, if I'm not mistaken. You can go look that up, saying that it was a travesty. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. I mean, it went all. I mean, folks wrote thousands of letters, okay, to them folks up there on Pennsylvania Drive or whatever you call it, saying, "Oh, absolutely not. Y'all need to overturn this." Yeah, that's how serious it got, right? They demanded their team back and wins. Yet, while they were celebrating the supposed victory that kept our name, our colors, our team, and there was a few people at the time the move was made, they said that when the Browns came back, which of course they did in 1999, that they should have came back with all new colors and so on and so forth. I kind of agree with that then and now. Fans should have been looking over their shoulders and keeping a close watch on the NFL. There would be few reasons to celebrate in the years to come. More than years. It felt like centuries. In this book, award winning sports writer Terry Pluto takes a hard look at the first 5 years of the new Cleveland Browns franchise and doesn't like what he sees. Pluto chronicles the backroom deals, big money power plays, poor decisions, and plain bad luck that have dogged the new Browns franchise since its inception. Browns fans still stand by waiting for a return to glory. And I say that because fast forward to now, 2022, of course, with Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to get into what's going on with him and whatnot. I'm just talking about on the field. It finally seems like the Browns are poised for an actual return to glory. Now, will it be reminiscent of them Otto Graham days? I know some of y'all don't count that championship because it's not called Super Bowl. I never understood that. It's still a championship. Will it be a return to those days or reminiscent of? Who knows? But the future definitely looks bright. And I continue on. How much longer must they wait? Again, don't look like they're going to have much longer to wait now that they got Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and guys like and such. And might even get Odell back. Who knows? Pluto sifts through the clues from past seasons and looks for answers. This frank analysis will offer fans some solace along with an explanation for their misery. And just to give you a little backdrop on Mr. Pluto, Mr. Terry Pluto has been a sports columnist for the Akron Beacon Journal, and he writes for Cleveland.com for more than 25 years. He has twice been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize and twice been honored by the Associated Press sports editors as the nation's top sports columnist for medium-sized papers. He is an 8-time winner of the Ohio Sports Writer of the Year award and has received more than 50 state and local writing awards. He is the author of 21 books, and I have a few other books of his that we'll be chronicling or as that will be selections for our recommended reading. He's the author of 21 books, including The Curse of Rocky Colavito. Oh, y'all really need to check that one out. Selected by the New York Times, The Curse of Colavito was, as one of the 5 notable sports books of 1989. He also wrote Brownstown 1964 and Loose Balls. Which was ranked at number 13 on Sports Illustrated's list of the top 100 sports books of all time. He was called, Mr. Pluto was, perhaps the best American writer of sports books by the Chicago Tribune in 1997. He currently resides in Akron, Ohio. Now, believe me when I tell you, I've read this book, all jokes aside, probably about 20 times. And like any book, especially if it's a good read, what you get out of it the 3rd time and the 8th time and the 15th time is something totally different than you do the first couple of times. I don't know why, but that's what books do for me. You get something totally different. At the end of the day, the Browns move from Cleveland to Baltimore. A lot of folks still have yet to get past that. Even though this current regime looks to be well on its way to possibly, for the first time ever, winning a quote unquote Super Bowl. Again, championship, Super Bowl, what's the difference except what you call it? But anywho, that's why I'm not only recommending this book as a must read, but I'm definitely recommending this book as a must read for Browns fans, old and new alike. And the last thing I'll read from this book about this book is an excerpt, just to give you some idea of what this book entails and why you must read. Your team never had a chance. Browns fans need to know that about the reincarnated franchise. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Your team never had a chance. This is something Browns fans need to know about the reincarnated franchise that returned to the National Football League in 1999. The NFL should have the NFL never should have allowed Art Modell to hijack the franchise to Baltimore. But Modell was one of the boys, a veteran owner, and the league loves to take care of its own. And if it's unfair to the fans, so what? They'll just put an expansion team in there and make even more money in the process. It was all about money. Is it not? When is it not? Okay. All right. Never forget that. Money for Modell and money for his lodge brothers in the NFL owners' boxes. Can anyone say PSL without reaching for the Tums? Personal seat licenses, by the way. This is the book the NFL really doesn't want you to read, still to this day. It's the story of how some of the best football fans in the country were betrayed, abused, and finally stuck with an inferior product. Maybe not so much anymore, but charge more for it. What has been the return on their investment? What have fans who bought every ticket for every game since the Browns came back in 99 received as a reward? Heartaches, headaches, and frustration. Our second, our third, and our fourth that. Matter of fact, I'll give it a fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. Is it possible the Browns can overcome all this and even be a contender anytime soon? Once again, looks like it now after 365,000 years. This is the NFL, where it seems almost any team can make the Super Bowl unless it happens to be playing in Cleveland. So yes, the Browns could have a playoff team in the near future. And again, that future looks like it is here now. They could finally make their fans bark for joy rather than howl in pain. But if it happens, it's because the team has overcome a ridiculous number of obstacles, most of which were put into place by a league that has dollar signs for eyes. And that makes me mad because Browns fans deserve better. And I will second that as well. And I am in total agreement. So once again, our recommended reading selection for today is False Start, The Return of the Cleveland Browns, a must read for any football and especially Cleveland Browns fans, young or old. And remember, readers make leaders. It's your boy BSJ from the Shop Report. Oh, and don't forget to check out the podcast on the yard at 9 on the PM side every Sunday. Y'all know what it is. Holla at your boy. 2 times 3 is what? 17? That's what some of y'all think. Like most devs said, this new math is whipping. I'm out of here. Holla.